I just totally okay,
Handsome
we're
hubby, I want you to know that you have been dubbed by myself today Double H.
Double H.
That's my
Aw,
nickname for you, Double H.
Double H. He's handsome
So,
hubby. He
yep.
is good. So, hi, everybody. I am Terry, half of your fabulous co hosting team for True Crime and Wine Time. And here with me is the other fabulous half.
Hello, it's me, JT, and I think that makes a whole I don't math.
I don't do math either. What is math good for?
Absolutely nothing. Say it again. I don't know. I've got a calculator in my pocket.
I don't have
My
like,
teacher always told me I'd never have one in my pocket, but look at me now. Teach
I didn't remember the big old fancy watches that everybody thought was the bomb that you could have. They were like Texas
with like
Instrument.
yeah.
Now they're on our
Oh
phones
yeah.
and in our pocket.
I always when I was in the classroom, I'd always tell my students that, and this is a true fact, that the computing power that we have in our phones is greater than the computing power that was put in the space shuttle to go to the moon. Um, so, so
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I
wow.
believe so. So
Okay,
yeah,
somebody go
I'd have
fact
to
check
fact check
that.
myself, but I'm pretty sure that's true. You know what? That's the thing, though. They'll let us know. They'll let us know.
They will let us know. Well, I am very happy to be back. As you know, I have been in training this week to learn how to
Mm,
do incident
mm,
command for disaster and large events. And sitting in a room with a bunch of fire chiefs, state troopers, some firefighters, some EMTs, and things, they all think I'm a little weird when I told them about the podcast. And they're like, "Oh, so you really like true crime?" I'm like, "Yeah. And one day, hopefully, I'm going to find a dead body when I'm out hiking."
Oh, we
And
might
they
not want to.
all just turned and kind of looked at me like,
That took a left turn real fast.
I was like, I want to be a part of helping in disasters, helping the community, help things
Right.
get resolved. But I still wouldn't mind finding a dead body because then I would get to be a witness. I
I,
could get involved. I could follow the case.
Listen, you are in the right state to find a dead body somewhere.
That is true.
Sorry, Texas. Sorry, Texas.
That is
And I
true.
know that's not everybody, but I will say that the ones that make me feel that way are the loudest. So, I
I
don't
would say
know.
Texas or Florida.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true. And I think also Wisconsin's becoming the next Florida, but we'll see. We'll see. Remains to be seen.
Right.
So,
So, but it was just, interesting to have them all look at me and kind of like, what is wrong with this chick? And why is she here? And who thought she would be a good director of a community emergency response team?
me. It was
I was like,
me.
hey,
I did it.
just be me. Just be
Right?
me. Yeah. So, what's going on with you? And I know you have been a prolific tweeter and social media stud lately.
I I things have been going well. Yeah.
Did you quit your
I
day job?
no.
Or are you just not sleeping?
No. I still hate Elon. But and no, I'm still working a day job. In fact, it's exhausting because it almost feels like two full-time jobs. But I've combined live trial tweeting, so tweeting about trials that are broadcast on Law and Crime and Court TV. And then I've also started really kind of pushing along the lines of more justice-based things, finding out that I'm a lot more passionate about it than I thought.
Oh, you're
And
passionate. I had to turn notifications off, just so
I'm
you know.
sorry.
I was like, ping,
Yeah,
ping,
I know.
ping, ping, ping.
Yeah, it happens.
Hey, I love it. I
But
love it. So
yeah,
tell me
and
about you're covering a very interesting justice case. And I'm going to
yeah.
let you share it. And I'll be honest, I'm getting most of my information from your social media posts and your tweets, just because I've been
Well,
so busy being in training this week, things going on, wrapping up day job and stuff. You're kind of my information source and the person that has the same passion as me about things like that. So I'm going to go on record right now and say if I repeat something that JT tweets and the fact is wrong, at
No,
him, not me.
we so I would be embarrassed, but I mean I am kind of embarrassed that I get embarrassed by that kind of stuff, but it doesn't matter. I'm working with a group of folks that are wonderful, and two of them actually live in that area. And
Oh,
so there's a lot of stuff when I get things or when I see things, there's a lot of fact checking that goes on between me and them, and we talk and things like that. Because in fact, if it's not even fact laden, if it's a response that I have to something, like today, there was the press conference from the police department of Glenn County. My response, I actually took a screenshot and sent it to them and said, "Does this sound good?" Because I don't really want to put out rhetoric. Like, my rhetoric can be inflammatory to a degree, but I don't want it to be so inflammatory that it's not taken seriously. So there's a balance there.
no, well,
Um,
so for example, when I say like facts, here I was in the training with all these troopers and stuff. We come back and the trainer goes, "Hey, did y'all see the news when you're on break about Nashville? They think it was
oh
a
God.
teenager who did the shooting." Well, turns out she's like a 28-year-old. So I don't think
Yeah.
necessarily anybody gives the wrong facts, but at
No.
that point in time, with the information that was
Yeah.
available and
Yeah.
perceptions, that was the fact at the time. And that's something we're
Absolutely.
learning in incident command. We can only be as good
Right.
as the information that we're given, and that information is ever changing in
Right.
situations like that.
Yeah, and that's something that I take a look at. I think some people will be offended by the fact that somebody fact checks. And if you do it right, it's not offensive. So, like, when that teen thing came out, I had posted something about, like, some basics about what had happened, and I had mentioned that they were a teenager. And obviously that changed because
Mhm.
information changes. And so, underneath it, I put an update and said
Right.
they're actually 28 years old. And people had missed the update, so
Uh,
they were letting me know. And every time I could be like, "Well, look, I put the update," and I did point that out, but I also said thank you,
right.
because I would rather you make sure that my information's right if you do it right and
Oh,
nicely.
absolutely. As
So,
long as you don't come and say, "Hey, douchebag, it wasn't a teenager. Get your shit
right?
straight," you know? But
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
people,
I mean, the trolls are real. I've had some people follow me where I'm just like, I don't know if I want MAGA princess following me, really. But that being said, and before everybody jumps down my
okay,
throat,
well,
I give everybody a chance. And if something crazy happens, then blockety block block block. But if not, then that's fine. It's at least you're getting information from a source that tries to fact check. So,
I am part of a MAGA group here in Texas,
uh-huh.
Mothers Against Greg Abbott. It's
See,
actually
look,
a
that's
group.
brilliant.
It is actually a group. We had during the elections, we put a sign in our yard because in our neighborhood, you're allowed to for a certain amount of
Yeah.
time. I actually was able to say, "Hey, I am part of a MAGA group."
I love that. That's so great.
So just putting that out there because if it's somebody from Texas, it could be our MAGA group.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'll keep that in mind. I'll keep that in mind. It's the only Mag guy I could love.
Yeah. So tell me about Trent.
So this is happening in Brunswick, Georgia, which is in Glenn County, and it just so happens that Glenn County is the same place where Ahmaud Arbery was killed. I think I'm saying his name right.
Mm-hmm.
It ended up being the three guys, and it was a hate crime and all
Crime.
that stuff happening, right? Well, this is the same county that took 76 days to arrest those guys, and then it's the same county that, as far as I have heard, they are trying to pull and remove the hate crime charge away from those guys. Um, and they also have had a series of other things that have happened that are very questionable. They can't keep a police captain for more than like 2 years at a time. It's not great. And they've just kind of been, I don't know. It's one of those towns. It's a lot like the Alex Murdaugh town where it's lawyers and police and things like that. And I'm not saying that it's everybody because I
Right.
hate making blatant statements. I'm sure there are
But
very
there's a
great people
problem
there.
and it runs wide and deep,
Yeah,
probably.
it does. And so, what had happened was a 19-year-old Trent in Lehrkamp, could be camp. It's south, could be camp. I'm saying it like it's German, which it is. Basically, he just wanted to be accepted. It didn't matter who it was. He wanted some friends. And these 17-year-olds, 16 or 17-year-olds were taking advantage of this. There were some reports that came out that said, that he was on the spectrum. However, that being said, it eventually was fixed to say, no, that's not necessarily true. There's no fact or proof of that. Plus, it might be that Trent doesn't want to acknowledge that or doesn't want to, just say that he is. And that's fine. I know that there are cases like that. So, that obviously was stopped. However, he was he wanted to be accepted. He wanted friends. He wanted to be with a group. And it just so happened that he was picked up and he went to this party, and this party was at a kid's house in the basement or bottom floor. And I think there were parents there, but it doesn't. Basically, what happened was he was tortured. I mean, he was tortured and humiliated. They forced him to down an excessive amount of alcohol and other substances. It was reported possibly mushrooms. And then there were pictures that were taken and video that was taken on Snapchat and passed around and sent to other people. And here's the thing about these kids is they apparently thought Snapchat was not forever because it, quote, goes away. That, haha. So now the stuff's
Nothing goes
everywhere.
away that you put on an
Right.
app or the internet.
Exactly. And
It's
so
captured somewhere.
one of the pictures is Trent unconscious, bound to a chair, covered in spray paint. There's 4 kids around him giving him the middle finger. They urinated on him. There was feces involved. There was a conversation about the possibility of them forcing him to drink battery acid. There's a lot of stuff going on here, right? And so at some point, 3 of these kids hopped in the Jeep, put him in the back, and took him to the hospital. And they went in and said, hey, we've got a friend that drank a lot and is on antidepressants. Of course, he's covered in spray paint and stuff, so how are you going to... Anyway, so they came out, they grabbed him, and the kids were like, well, can we go? And then they offered, and they did leave their name and their numbers. So they have the names and numbers. They have some security footage from the hospital. They've got these videos and things like that. And so, it was initially reported as a hazing. Excuse me. It was initially reported as a hazing, which is what Trent's dad had called it when they called the police. However, that being said, it is not a hazing. It does not fall within hazing. However, if you're a dad, you're going to say whatever, he's in a state,
Well, you may not have a word to put to it. I mean,
there is no word. I mean, what do you say? Like, if my son was like that, I don't know what I would say, right?
is he attacked? I mean, bully. I mean, hey, what word would,
And
I mean, I don't even know what you would use.
right. And so, this happened last Tuesday. This whole thing happened last Tuesday. And I don't think much got done until the public outcry on Saturday or Sunday. Really. I don't think much happened. The incident report was horrible. I read it. I mean, just everything that was described in there as what might have happened or did happen. That report was terrible and certainly warranted further investigation. Apparently they've put out, they won't say how many warrants, but warrants to search, and they've done some interviews and stuff, but there have been absolutely no arrests whatsoever. At least the 3 kids that dropped him off. There are things that need to happen, and the reason why they haven't happened is because this is an assumption on my part. However, I feel pretty safe in saying this. The parents of these children are affluent and they're really well connected. There is a possibility that one of the kids' parents is actually in the police force.
Great.
So there's a lot happening with that. And so a lot of stuff, like if you ever see me online, like at this point, the phrase that I came up with randomly late at night one night was affluence is not innocence.
I saw that.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not, some people might take that as, you can't be affluent. I hate people who are affluent. And that's not the case. That's not it at all. What I'm saying is that if you're affluent, Oh, I thought I changed it.
Thought I would tell you. So for those of you laughing and who are going to see this video on
There you go. I changed
Patreon,
it.
we just had a little snafu.
It's fine, just ignore it. Not a biggie. It's a big town. So I'm not against affluence. I mean, by all means, be successful, whatever successful means to you. However, if you decide to use that to get yourself out of trouble or get your kids out of trouble in a way that's totally unethical, it's just not the way it is. Like, just because you have money and you're connected does not mean you're innocent. That's what I mean by that. And
And
so,
you're right. I mean, plus your wealth should have nothing to do with whether or not you're held accountable for your actions.
exactly. And I think we're super sensitive to that right now, at least the folks that have been, trial watching and things because of the whole Alex Murdaugh trial. I mean, he was quote unquote affluent and well connected, obviously, and he got away with a lot of stuff for a very, very long time. We don't even know about half of it, I think. But so we're super sensitive about it. But so when this stuff came out, the police were like, "We're looking into it. We can't really take these videos and photos at face value. In fact, they might be from a previous incident." And I'm like, "Hold on, whoa, 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 whoa! What you're telling me?" What you think you're telling me is that we can't take this at face value because this might not have been this time.
Right.
But what I'm hearing is, oh, there was more than once and you know about it. And so, yeah, apparently this happened 2 times prior. Not to this degree, but like, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like,
Doesn't
to me,
matter.
this is torture. To me, this is torture. I mean, I don't know what the
Absolutely.
definition in Georgia of attempted murder is, but I feel like this is attempted murder.
I would
Whether it
think.
was on purpose or not, maybe involuntary, but there's no involuntary attempted anything. So there's a lot that's happening. And, the 2 folks, well, really it's 5 of us. Oddly enough, you will appreciate this. I ended up being in contact with some folks that are called the wine moms.
Oh, I need to
Um,
meet them and become friends with them.
they're wonderful. And, they're basically somebody thought they were insulting the 4 or a group of them by calling them wine mom, saying you don't know anything about true crime, whatever, and they decided to own it. And they were like, well, that's what we are now. And so if you look at my bio and Twitter, you'll see that it says wine mom because they have accepted. No, it's whatever.
Okay,
But
I am going to go right now to Twitter because I need to find the wine moms. And you're a wine mom, so that's even that I already know a wine mom.
I don't even know. Honestly, I don't know if I can leave that in. I don't know if they want anybody to know about that, to be honest.
It says wine mom. Oh my
Well, it's true.
gosh.
Yeah. So that's something that the group that I'm working with is very focused on getting justice for Trent. That's the bottom line. And we would like it to be just like he deserves, speedy. We want it done right. But we also know that there's a bunch of stuff out there and that there are some folks like the neighbors that haven't been interviewed, like that we know of, and today's press conference didn't do them any favors because it was a lot of the same. They basically reiterated what the DA put out in a press release. They were very evasive of some questions, and a lot of it I think has to do with, I mean, a lot of it is they can only say so much, and I get that, but there is also a lot of it that I think they feel the pressure from whoever these kids' parents are, and they're not saying much. So the other issue is that there's a local paper that's been calling, initially called this an overdose. And then they called it an incident, and they're not calling it what it is. And it just so happens that one of the kids' parents might actually work at that paper. So, yeah,
I'm going to just go out. I have kids and grandkids, and I have, they call me, mama bear for kids that are not biologically mine, but that my kids'
right.
friends and stuff. And I have to tell you, and they all would say, yeah, mama bear's right. You do something like that to somebody else, I'm still going to love you. I'm not going to stop loving you, but I damn sure am not going to protect you
Yeah.
whatever the consequences are, you're going to pull up your big boy, big girl panties and deal with it because you made a dumbass decision. You're going to suffer the non dumbass consequences.
Yeah.
And so those
What I'm
parents are not doing their
no,
kids any favor. You're basically
no.
saying, it's okay.
Yeah, and some of these kids have had problems in the past and there's been no consequences. And so, they get that invincible feeling
That's like
and
the affluenza guy, Ethan
right?
Couch from Dallas.
Yeah. And so like what what I really struggle to understand is the whole excuse of boys will be boys. And if I ever hear that from anybody, I just want to smack them in the face. Because I'm going to be honest with you, boys will be boys works for like pull my finger or smell my fart
What
or
that's what I
whatever.
was
It
gonna
does
say.
not work, right? It
That
doesn't
that's
work
the
for
only
this.
thing, or when they bring you a frog and ask you to kiss it, mom, or they
Right.
stick it in the bathtub because they want to scare you. But that's not
Yep.
boys. That is, I don't think I can say what I want to say. I mean, that's just everybody can make bad decisions and make shitty decisions. But if you do it more than once, kind of starts making you a shitty person.
And yeah, and so I agree. And so like was it last night? I think it was last night there was a gathering, it was a vigil. It was actually organized by Ahmad Arbery's aunt, I believe. And she is a hell of a public speaker. No joke. So I received a bunch of the videos from somebody who was there and I put them all together and put it in a video package that, we tried to get out before the evening news. And then they are going to also be meeting. This will come out after, but they would be meeting again on Saturday, um, at the pier, in order to continue that protest. And something that before we move on, something that I really want people to know is that there's a lot of stuff circulating. Just make sure that the facts are right. Number one. And by the time this comes out, we might discover different facts or
Mhm,
that what I said was wrong, but this is what we know at the time.
mhm.
And you know, there's a very fine line that you walk between harassing the people that have already been named as possible suspects and their parents, or just doing the right thing, which is letting things take their course. And I think
Mhm.
while I wish law enforcement would go faster, we cannot be doxing people. We can't be,
Right.
do violence to these people. We can't. What we can do is we can boycott their businesses. We
Mhm.
can we can do a lot of stuff because if you know them, in that town and you know what they do and you know what they're connected with, don't go there anymore.
Right.
Um, and so, there are other ways of doing things that are a little more non-violent, right?
Oh,
I already
absolutely.
feel like the social media outcry is what has kind of pushed this just in general. Um, by no, I am just a part of that, and I'm really happy that people are really taking notice, um, and really trying to get people to understand what's going on down there.
And I think
So,
that's one of the
anyways, yeah,
positives to social media. I mean, there's a lot of things about
yeah,
social media that's really bad, but
yeah,
I do like that it can bring awareness to things, educate people, and it can also help people to do something in a positive way if they do it, go about it the right way,
hmm
like setting up vigils, peaceful
hmm
protest, things like that. Absolutely. I think it's good for that.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, so as long as things are done right, it's awesome to be able to push out information to people in real time. The important thing for people to understand is that real time means that it's that information at that moment.
Mhm,
And like you've mentioned, information is it's constantly changing and
mhm.
developing and maturing and evolving. So, always keep that in mind that when people like me are putting information out at
Mhm.
the moment and as things go, there's a level of grace that's needed there.
Well,
Because as long as we're doing it right and updating, then
right.
there you go.
Right. Well, and I think everyone in this world, even me, needs to work on it. And I try really hard. We all need to give people more grace
It's true. Me too. Me
just
too.
because we don't know what's going on. People, I mean, we just need to have more grace.
And there, of course, I'm being very pushy, and I'm being a little, down on law enforcement over there. Primarily has to do with their history and kind of how this is just repeating itself.
Mhm.
I also know that there's a lot of things that we don't get told. Like, there's a lot in my head. I'm very mixed emotions about a lot of
Right.
this. I just know that he deserves the justice, and that he should get for what happened to him. Now,
Right.
I totally neglected to say that for a couple of days he was in the ICU. Now he's been out of the ICU for about a day, so it looks like he's recovering. When he arrived there, he was literally at 6 breaths a minute.
Yeah. And I
And so they were 6 breaths a minute away from a murder charge, is what they were. So they lucked out on that note. Trent's a pretty strong kid, so
and
I
could
wish
be
him
a
the
blessing
best.
for them
Yeah,
because I mean
yeah,
it it could be. I mean, hopefully the family, the kids, everyone maybe will be like, okay, wait a minute. I did this. I need to own
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And now I need to handle it better. It's all we
Nope.
can hope for. But no, I'm glad that he's out and doing better. And I appreciate you doing that and sharing the news because I would not even know about it if I hadn't seen your tweets.
There there are a lot of people that are on this train trying to push it forward, and I'm
I saw
grateful for
that.
them. Yeah, I'm very grateful for them. And this is something also that, a week ago I didn't know about. But once I heard about it, I couldn't not say something.
It lit your passion
So
fire.
yeah, it really did. So there's been a lot of people that have come out to talk and comment on stuff, and I've become, we formed at least an acquaintanceship, a social media acquaintanceship, whatever that is, and this has been great. So,
I call it
you
social
know,
friends.
yeah, pretty much social friends. That's what it is. Because you can't really say SMFs because that's really awkward.
That's exactly that just was a little odd there, but that's okay. But well, I've
I
been
am a little odd.
sitting here. I haven't opened my wine today, but it's in my cute little thing. Just because I'm gonna have to make some noises. It's just like really a tight twister. I can't get it open. I'm like, I may have to call the handsome hubby in
We
here.
need the double H.
There, I
Ah, there
got
you
it.
go.
So,
We
and I
don't
know
need
it's
no
not
thinking man.
time, but I'll jump ahead and say, look, see my cubes light up and they change colors.
They do. That's awesome.
And then when you
They're
take
so
them out,
bright.
they go off.
And
They're
most of
magical.
everybody can't see it, but you have a lovely, lovely new paint color in your room.
I do. So, for those that, follow me on social or have the pleasure of knowing me, some people say, oh, your favorite color is pink. No, my favorite color is not pink. I am pink. I embody pink. I believe in pink. I believe in the power it brings. It's just a great color. So no, it's
Mhm.
not my favorite color. I am just pink. I really
Right.
think my blood is pink. Like I even have a pink keyboard.
I love that.
So
I just love your entire office. It's
everything is pink.
fantastic.
So
It's shimmery, y'all. It's shimmery pink paint, and when the sun hits it,
it sparkles. I will do a picture and put it up on one of the socials. But for our Patreon members, we've reopened Patreon. We will be putting the videos on there so you too can enjoy my bright pink office. I noticed it was gray before. I'm happier spending as much time in here now. It's brightened up the whole room. It's, I don't know. It's just, I don't know if it's just because pink is me, but I really feel just like brighter and happier.
no, things like that. I mean, we all know that when you put on, clothes that, you dress for the occasion or higher than the occasion, you carry yourself differently. I think the same goes for homes. And of course
That's
I say
true.
that in a very dark room, right? But I also kind of like that whole Batman
I
mystique,
say, but if you like the Batman thing, then it
Yeah.
works for you. But
I
yeah,
mean, there's
but
a
no.
reason why my acoustic tiles are purple and black.
Well,
I
mine
just like
are
that.
pink and black in the podcast booth,
They
which
are.
may be coming back, but I only wish the ice cubes were pink, but they don't
Right.
have pink ones.
Oh.
But that's okay.
Well, you know what though? It works. I like it. It works.
I do have a
Oh
question because
man.
I have not had time to look, but I saw a quick headline. What is going on? And I always say his name wrong, so forgive me. Adnan Syed.
Adnan Syed. All right, so
All
I'll
I
give
saw
you
was the headline
yeah. I'll
that
give you a
they've
little bit.
reversed it.
Yeah, I'll explain this from how I understand it, and that does not mean that I understand it correctly.
No,
Right?
I don't have any info but seeing
Yeah.
the headline. So I was
Yeah, and
really hoping you'd have a little bit of info.
yeah, and I'm conflicted about it too. I have mixed emotions too. So basically, they did reverse the decision, and a lot of people read that and were like, "What the hell? Like, you can't just reverse the decision." Now, it doesn't make it any better, but they reversed the decision on a technicality, and the technicality being that a certain hearing that he went through before he was given, they reversed his sentence. The Heyman Lee's family was supposed to be given enough time to be there at the hearing, and they were not given enough notice and not enough time to attend the hearing. And because of that, they rescinded or reversed it and said you have to have that hearing again. Now, whether that's going to have a difference or make a difference, or if it's just going to end up being like, it sucks that it's red tape, but also you want to do it right. Also, I believe in giving victims a voice if that is part of that case, that hearing.
But would it have
So
changed the outcome? Because they didn't
I don't
get to
know.
speak at that, I don't think. So it's on my list after, recording tonight
Yeah.
to, get on my tablet and look because I just saw the headline and I was like, what the?
There, you know, people are on either side. This is obviously a very polarizing situation and a very polarizing case. However, I think there's one thing we can agree upon. That is a mind F. That
Oh,
is literally a mind. Yeah.
it
Just in
is.
terms of like being free and then being back.
Did
And then,
they put him back in
I
jail?
think
Are
he
they
asked to go
leaving him?
back, but I,
So,
I have to check that. I have to look
okay.
that up. So,
So that's
you
what
know,
I'm really concerned about because the trauma to him in, out, in, out, in, out, because yes or no
oh,
kind of
here we
thing.
go. Okay. Adnan does not have to return to prison for now. The court's order to reinstate his conviction and sentence does not go into effect for 60 days. It doesn't really say whether he actually has to or not, but not for 60
Not
days.
for
And we all
60
know how
days.
justice moves slow. So I don't know
Slow.
when that hearing would
Okay.
be rescheduled. But this is really hard. I mean, and not from a PR side, he was already on an uphill battle.
Mhm.
Um, having that decision reversed after what was it, 10 plus years?
He was in
Um,
prison 23 years, I
was it
thought.
23?
13 or
Um,
23. And
time
there's
flies.
DNA evidence. It's not him. I
That
mean,
they haven't tested, or it's not him. It's
right.
there's so much
So,
that wasn't done. So
and I mean, I agree they need to do it right. But I also believe if somebody being there and they're not allowed to speak, and if it can't affect the outcome, is it
right.
really a technicality?
Well, and that's the
Like,
part that I don't know
because
because
if
I don't know
I'm
what type of.
invited to go see, just to be there at a hearing or something, but I don't get a voice, I don't get to say anything, I don't affect the outcome. Just
Right.
because I didn't get invited doesn't mean whatever the outcome was should be changed. But I'm going to table that and say I'm going to have to read it and do some research.
Yeah.
I figure there's a couple of podcasts, as we know, who followed that case very well. And
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to be putting out some updates, and I will have
Yeah.
to go and look at that. But I was just
Absolutely.
shocked seeing it as a headline. And I've made a commitment to myself. And I don't know if it's a good mental health commitment or a bad one, but I try to wake up, set my alarm 30 minutes earlier. And before I get out of the hammock or bed, depending on where I sleep at night, I look at the news
Yeah.
and read the articles. And then I don't look at news again until the end of my day. And the reason why, because I found myself so involved in certain things that it was getting in the way of doing my job and things like that. So I'm trying that.
You did the opposite of what I did.
As I say, and you did the opposite. You just jumped all in.
I sure did. Oh, I sure did. But you know what? That's how I got entertained by watching the Gwyneth Paltrow trials. So,
Oh, don't even. I mean, I don't. The things she says, the things he says, I'm like, is this a reality TV show?
It is the whitest trial I have ever been a part of.
I mean,
like he said, Owens, who is Paltrow's attorney, said, "How has this affected you?" Talking to Terry Sanderson, the plaintiff, and he said, "Well, I can't ski anymore." And there were other things that he said, but he said a lot of shit, and Owens totally decimated him today, which was day 7. If this when for this one comes out, so day 7 on the cross, he decimated him, and
I haven't seen news tonight, nothing since this morning, so I'm curious to see. And
yeah,
I will say that mental health thing will change a little bit because the company I worked for here in Austin, because I still also work for the company in Finland, they let go the entire recruiting team. So I laid off all of my recruiting team last week. The very upside of that story is I can now spend more time in the news and watching those things for the next couple of months till Finland ramps back up. But I'm kind of excited.
I will say this. I was not into trials until I hopped into one channel, and it's kind of like a live view, like they're watching and then you're watching, and there's a community, and it's a positive community, which is awesome. And the channel is by Recovery Addict, is what it's called, the channel. And
where's the channel at?
YouTube. And he just crossed 10,000 subscribers today, which was awesome to be a part of. He is a fantastic guy, and he is a guy that doesn't talk over the trial. He will make small comments. He will acknowledge other comments in the chat, but he waits until breaks to talk about things. And that's what I like, because that lets me ingest the material without having to hear commentary the entire time. And it's the only live channel that I've really stuck with.
It's called Recovery Channel?
Recovery Addict.
Oh, Recovery.
And that's him. Let me make sure that that's his entire.
Okay. How about at me with it?
Yes, I will. I want to make sure I'm
so the last live trial I watched the entire trial of was O.J. Simpson.
Oh, Jesus.
And the reason it did me in for watching live trials, just because it was a shit show, which we all know it was.
It was.
But
it was.
One thing I hate, like you say, when I see recaps or I see other people who do live, I can't hear what's going on because all I'm hearing is their thoughts. And I don't ever get to have thoughts of my own. And I find myself being a sheep following them because all I heard was their thought. So there's my thought. And
that's what I really like, is because he lets it happen, and he acknowledges people in the chat by popping them up on the feed. So he'll click on the comment will pop up. And so that will kind of help, like, explain kind of how he's feeling without him having to say anything, etc. So that's kind of really nice. And it's a smaller community, and I know I said 10,000, but it's usually around 8 to 1,200 people that watch. And I don't know, it's just really good. And I really like good people and nice people and caring people that do great things. And he's one of them.
I'm going to have to check him out.
And and he's also on Twitter at Recovery Addict 2, because apparently the first one was taken. So,
well, I know I went ahead and jumped ahead.
Promo.
Sorry. I went ahead, jumped, and poured my wine. I'm drinking bread and butter rosé. Never had it. I have to say I'm liking it, but I like bread and butter pickles. So I thought bread and butter rosé. I was kind of curious to see, because it's pink and it's my bread and butter.
There you go. Is it good?
It is. It's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. What are you drinking today?
Victory Sour Monkey Triple IPA. No, sorry, it's not an IPA. It's a sour triple. It's a beer. I am drinking a beer. It's tart.
What does
It's
sour
really
triple mean?
um man, if you were asking Mike, he could tell you. What I
Mike,
can
will you
tell you,
send me a message? Let me know what sour triple means.
right? What I can tell you is a triple is a type of beer. What does it mean? I don't know, but it's tart. And that's what I like about it is
Like
that it's
me.
got that kind of. It's not. You'll know tot. But it's one of my
Sometimes I could be a
favorites.
tart.
Well, we all could be tarts sometimes, right? But it's really good. I really like Victory Brewing. They're out of Downington, Pennsylvania. But it's a really good beer. I just enjoy it, and I know it's not wine, but I
Well,
haven't gotten any in the mail, so
I know. I'm like, come on, mine hasn't showed up either. Well, but I do like beer occasionally. Um, it just makes me so full. I can have one beer and that's it. I feel like I just
it
swell
sounds like a
up.
great diet.
It's like, because there was this
Yeah.
place, Copper Tank, that used to be down in Deep Ellum in Dallas, and they had a
Mhm.
raspberry ale. The only
Ooh, I
beer
love those.
that I've ever been able to drink 3 or 4 of and not feel like I just ate 10 Big Macs and just be miserable. I've never found anything close to it. So that's my problem with beer. Something about it. I've had someone tell me maybe you have that thing, like not celiac, but intolerance to all the wheat, the
Yeah,
barley, and
yeah,
something.
it's
Because I
possible.
literally feel like I just ate 10 Big Macs.
It's see what you need is you just need what I have, which is a little more space. You need a little more you just
I
need
need
a
a little more
little more
space.
room. So yeah, I'm already on my second one because
I've just
that's where I'm
started.
at.
Normally I've had one. So why don't you tell us what our topic we're covering today is?
Ah, yes, one of us, one of us, one of us. We're talking about cults today.
I
I
am
am
so
excited.
excited. And
And
as you
I
know,
can't. Hmm.
I changed which cult I was covering because of the
You
class.
completed it?
I did.
Oh
We
my
got out of
god.
training early today. We because our trainer had something to do. And after sitting there with the troopers and everybody talking, I changed what case. So I knew the case a whole lot. And it's one of those cases that there's so much out there. You could do an
Yeah.
entire podcast on it. So
Oh,
kept to a lot of it, but I'm really excited because it reinvigorated me just to remember the craziness about it.
that's that's exciting to me because I'm excited to hear you talk about that. And everybody else should be too. You don't know what it is yet, but you should be excited. And then my case, without giving out the title, is this is a cult that I really hadn't heard of before. And so it's very interesting to me. And we get into some of the stuff that they do, but also it, it's buck wild. So we'll get there.
That is exciting. And I guess I should say this episode contains graphic content, adult language, and most likely is not suitable for all listeners.
Surprise.
Just putting it out there for you.
Right.
Now, since we're talking about cult crimes, I what's the word? I tiptoed around doing some research on another potential cult, but it was just so
Huh.
bizarre. Do you remember the Mark Kilroy case?
Nope.
He
Sure don't.
was the UT student killed in Mexico over spring break back in the 80s. And it turned out to be a satanic cult. It's a religious thing. And they found all of these bodies and stuff buried
Oh,
because they
wow.
were sacrificing them. And what made me spawn that thought is the thing that happened where the ladies were going across the border to get surgery, got kidnapped, got killed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
it kind of made me start thinking about that because every time anyone here in Texas says Mark Kilroy, you just think of the good looking college boy who got killed on spring break and Matamoros. Well, when you dive into it, there was a whole lot of other people killed. It was a satanic cult. And it's one that I've put on the list that someday I'm going to have to do a lot of research and cover. Just didn't have the time to do it for this one, but it's very interesting because I'll have to try to learn how to pronounce because I failed Spanish 3 years in a row. The Spanish teacher told me, he goes, just give it up. You're pretty.
Oh my God.
Like,
well, I can't help you because I took 7 years of German and I don't remember that shit either. So
I can't roll my R's. Can't do it. So, oh well. But so my new case is, I'm not going to tell you.
Bum.
I'm going to just sit here for 5 minutes and let people try to figure out what it is. What do you think?
You have one good guess.
Oh, one good guess. So now thinking about doing this case, I know a lot of people say all religions are a type of cult. And, I thought about it, and that can be true, I guess, to some degree. But just because you believe in something that other people believe in, or you have the same values, does not make it a cult.
No.
So true. I think it'll be interesting diving into this because it was about 25 years ago that it happened here in the great state of Texas. Did I do my math right?
No, I think it was 30 years ago. I think today's it's 30.
Is it 30? That means I'm 40.
So it happened in 1993. So it's 30 years ago.
That means I'm 40. I need to accept that I'm not 35.
You are always 21.
Always 21. Thank you.
You look better than 21-year-olds, so you're doing fine, Terry. You're doing fine.
It's just because I've learned hydrate, drink more water than wine.
I don't like that part, but all right.
Drink more water than wine. So the Branch Davidians were and everybody laughs when I say this, apocalyptic, because it's the only time I will say it right. Because once I have a couple more glasses of wine, apocalyptic in me will not do well. But it was a new religious movement. So it was founded in 1955 by Benjamin Roden. But the Branch Davidian Seventh-day Adventist was established in 1935 by Victor Hotev. Hotev. I mean, he's a Bulgarian immigrant. Does that work?
Ooh, yes.
So call him Victor. So until I did my research, I did not know about all of the name changes, the takeovers, the different breakoffs of it. And I never knew it was and some of it started from the Seventh-day Adventist. So that was kind of shocking.
It's cutthroat. Ever since it's happened earlier than that, but Martin Luther nailing the stuff to the door, you know what I mean? Like, if they don't agree, they're going to branch off. And a lot of times when they branch off, it's just like, it's almost a cash grab for a lot of people. I'm not saying it was for him, but yeah.
It was interesting to read and do research on all of that. So, but Victor was a Bulgarian immigrant and he was a 7-day Adventist. So it was interesting to see that within these religious groups, oh, great, JT, you have this belief. I'm going to let you preach that. Then you start preaching it and you get your own little followers. So, and that's what happened. And he goes to them and he says, okay, we need to reform this. This isn't good. This isn't good. This isn't good. And they said, yeah, no, We're not doing that.
You know what's funny? This sounds a fucking lot like Twitter.
God, it does.
I post things, people follow me, and then Elon comes in and says, no, no, no. And everybody says, F you, Elon. That's what happened.
That's true. I didn't think about that. So they broke off and they found their own group that later became known as the Davidians. And you will find these people were not creative with their naming conventions. It's almost like who's the boxer? He has George Foreman. All of his kids are named George Foreman, right?
They're all named George. Yeah. All the boys are named George. All of them.
No unique. So you're going to see a lot of that. So anyway, Victor moved his Davidians to Waco, Texas. Back then, it was not called Waco, Waco, as it is currently today, because you can't get past it. But they built this community called...
After this past couple weeks, it's definitely that. But we'll move on from that. Yes.
It's called the Mount Carmel Center. And is it Carmel? Carmel?
Well, I can say this. There was a church in Newport News where I grew up called Mount Carmel.
Okay.
And so I'm guessing it was a Catholic church, but
I'm
guessing
Carmel. It's not caramel.
Yeah. There's
it's not.
Yeah. Well, I say caramel, but it's, as far as I know, it's Mount Carmel. So it's odd. You know,
I'm going to say wherever you live, call it whatever you want, but it's like the little squares of caramel, whatever. But anyway.
Right.
So he took off, ran it. They were, we'll call that. Well, then he died. And his wife took over. So she steps in and, takes over. But didn't last very long, because Benjamin Rodden proclaimed that he received a message from God. And he wrote letters to his fellow Davidians about these messages. And he signed the letters, the Branch, which was what he believed the new name Jesus took. I didn't know any of that part.
It's so fascinating how anytime God talks to somebody, it really benefits them.
It does. It does.
You know what
Nobody
I mean?
else. But so those who believed him went off with him. They broke off and they became the Branch Davidians, Seventh-day Adventists. So they just threw in the branch in front of it.
Ooh. It's like New Coke.
Exactly.
Except nobody liked you. So
yep. So what got even more interesting, his wife, Mrs. Holtiff, sold the original property. She took over everything, but they moved it to Elk, Texas, it's only about 13 miles outside of Waco, called it the new Mount Carmel Center. Just put the word new, kind of like New Coke. We now have the new Mount Carmel Center.
I do not have an analogy for how little their creativity flows.
But now that we have Google Maps, you just type in like Mount Carmel Center and it pops up too. How do you know if to go to the old one or the new one?
Good question.
I mean, luckily they're like 13, 14 miles apart, but still, I'm like, get you to it. So anyway, her group failed and it was very convoluted as to why it failed. But basically, she said, all of this is going to happen this date. Well, it didn't happen. So everybody said, well, we don't believe you anymore. Now, mind you, she only got it because her husband died, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But the thing that was interesting, she sold the property to Rodden because he had that separate branch. He, his wife, and his son took over the new Mount Carmel. They began just calling it Mount Carmel. Dropped center and dropped new.
And all the marketing people are like, what the hell, guys? Pick one.
Like,
All of our brochures say new. We can't do this anymore.
I'm like, could you just stop? But when he died, his wife stepped in and took over.
Oh my God.
So I'm just like, I was raised Catholic. Granted, the Pope doesn't have a wife, but if he did, I don't think she would automatically become the Pope.
Uh,
What are
no,
your qualifications
because
just because you were married? Because I mean, I'm
for
married to
some,
handsome hubby, and if he drops dead, I can't take over his job. I'm not qualified.
well, yeah, and I mean, for some reason in Catholicism, you have to have dangly bits in order to be,
That's true.
be in
You do.
charge.
You
And
do.
honestly, therein lies their problem. So,
That is true.
just
But
saying.
so anyway, she took over. Well, 1981, Vernon Howell arrived at Mount Carmel to study biblical prophecies under Mrs. Roden, Benjamin's
All
wife.
right.
And by 1983, he had his own group of followers, and they break off and become known as the Davidian Branch Davidian Seventh Day Adventist Association.
Um, the I don't. How is this
Where
is not a thing?
Lois's
Like,
Rodden's group continue to operate as the Branch Davidians. So now Vernon Howell becomes the Branch Davidian Seventh Day Adventist Association. While on the same property, she's operating the Branch Davidians.
this sounds like a South Park episode. Matt Stone and Trey Parker, you're welcome.
But they stayed separate until she died. Her son took over for a year. Then Vernon came in. But the thing that was interesting, it comes out Vernon and Lois were having a little affair. She was in her upper
Ooh.
60s. He's in his early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure she was not happy that he decided to break off. Not only did he leave her bed, he left her group.
You didn't say the magic word.
And then when she died and her son took over, he filed a document claiming to be the president of their group, the Branch Davidians, and rose to power over the group.
So he said, "I'm the president."
Mhm.
The election was no, I'm kidding. He said,
It
"I'm
was
the
rigged.
president," and he won it.
Yep.
Oh man.
So, yeah, just kind of funny. Now, in 84, Howell and his followers left Mount Carmel, and they were accused by George, because his mom had died, they're leaving,
Right.
of burning down the administration building as they left. They relocated to Palestine. Some people say Palestine. It is Palestine, Texas, people. Born and raised here. At me if you
Oh,
don't like it.
it's like East Palestine, Ohio.
Yeah,
Everybody says East Palestine. It's East
just
Palestine.
just stop,
So,
people. I have argued with people before about it because I
yeah.
used to, when I did call centers, ran call centers, one was there. But anyway, interesting thing. They moved there. They didn't have a lot of money. So they were living in Mount Carmel. Now
Mhm.
they're living in buses and tents for the next couple of years. So they were no restrooms, no kitchens. They were
So
roughing it.
it's like the intro to Jesus Christ Superstar the musical movie. They're just they're just traveling around in buses. We're going back to the 60s. Woo! All right.
Now, and George Roden, because when they broke off, he renamed his followers that stayed with him because when his mom died, he inherited. They were called the Rodenville.
Rodenville's
I was
heading
like,
down the road.
I think of rodents. Rodents.
Rodenville. I'll tell you what, if they're living on buses, maybe.
No,
Maybe.
this is one that stayed in Mount Carmel. The son,
Oh,
Howell went off.
well.
Yeah. So, but Vernon Howell in November of 87, he took 7 of his followers. They raided Mount Carmel, their previous place, because they wanted to take it and make it theirs because
Uh-huh.
they were tired of living in tents and
Huh.
buses. They went with semi-automatic weapons, rifles, and shotguns with over 400 rounds of ammunition to try to
That
take over
sounds
the
like
compound.
something Jesus would do.
Mhm, mhm. Well, George called the police on Vernon Howell and his followers. They all got arrested. They actually went on trial.
Yeah.
All of the followers were found not guilty. The jury
Mm.
was unable to agree on a verdict
Oh,
for Vernon
hung.
Howell, so it was just mistrial and it was dropped. The funny thing is, George Roden later, several years, he was found at a trial to be insane and sent to a psychiatric hospital after he murdered Dale Adair with an axe. And he swore that Vernon Howell sent him to cause him to kill him.
That is very convenient for him, huh?
But I was like, he sent somebody who played a mind game on you and made you kill them.
I feel like John Wayne Gacy had a better case for insanity. I don't feel like this guy
But they
wins that
found him
battle.
insane and they sent
Oh
him
boy.
to the psychiatric hospital. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting because not a lot of people get by with that insanity defense.
No,
Back
not
in
at
the
all.
80s, he did.
Wow.
He did. Now, Vernon Howell legally changed his name to David Koresh
There it
in
is.
May of 1990. Up, I just heard Mr. Bear bark. I
Me
never
too.
knew he legally changed his name. I thought he just proclaimed, I am David Koresh. I didn't know he legally changed his
Yeah.
name.
I don't think I knew much about the intro.
Yeah.
Everybody just starts at Waco.
Yep. And
Nobody
David
is.
Koresh.
I
You
don't think I
never
knew that.
hear that when he came into the Davidians, he was Vernon Howell. I actually looked and saw the legal paper where he changed his name. And he did that because he said he had ties to the biblical King David and Cyrus the
There it is.
Great.
Oh, well, you know what? Then obviously credible.
Yeah. Now, this is something else I did not know. Did you know that David Koresh had something in common with Hitler?
That he had something in common with Hitler? I mean, he kind of.
Besides being crazy,
Oh, right.
he wanted to create a new, pure lineage of future leaders. He wanted to get rid of everyone else and use his, kind of
You know,
like Hitler
here's
wanted his white
here's a
nation.
tip. Here's a tip for cult leaders. If you don't want to get caught, there are certain things you shouldn't do. One, don't involve children. Two, don't involve other people's wives.
Mhm.
3, don't make it a sex cult. And chances are you'll be fine.
Well,
However,
what's interesting though, after David Koresh changed his name and started preaching that new pure lineage, and his message was the serpent's root, his ability to attract many other followers who were buying in and okay with the children, the extra wives,
yeah.
that his crazy found other crazies.
Yeah, there it is. Yep. Crazy attract crazy.
Yeah. But it wasn't long after that some of the former followers, when he made that change, they are the ones who started calling the police and saying, hey, you need to look into this guy. There's child sexual abuse going on. They're
Yep.
partaking in polygamy.
Yeah.
However, police investigated and they could not find any proof of it. And didn't want to put a lot of this in there because reading some of the reports that I got into, one of the reasons is because people were lying.
Yeah.
And I was like, hopefully now, if this was to happen, people are trained a little bit better to call bullshit.
Yeah, you'd hope so. I mean, you'd hope it's more than just a phone call saying, "Hey, we heard this is going on. Is it happening?"
Well,
No.
and
Okay.
here's why, and we'll get to it. So looking into it, so back when he was Howell, he was 19. He had an illegal sexual relationship with a 15-year-old who got pregnant.
Hmm.
And he was kicked out of the Seventh day Adventist church after he told the pastor that God wanted him to have his teenage daughter as a wife. And the pastor was like, "You're out of here." So before he started his crazy preaching, he already had these issues. But he started teaching that message, the serpent's root, when he was with Lois. And he just announced one day that God told him to marry Rachel Jones, who was 14 at the time, and it was granted, and he married her. So when a couple of years later they come and they're investigating, how did you not look at his wife and go, "How old were you when you married him? Because I'm just not, my math isn't great, but let me get my calculator out."
You still got NSYNC posters up, so this is not,
That's what I mean by they lied to him. How did they not? Because I mean, I will say, I've seen some 14-year-olds, they could pass for 16, 17,
Yeah.
but you would still be able to tell if you had a conversation with them that they're 14.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But her family said okay.
I'm sure they did.
So, but he also practiced the doctrine of the house of David, which led to marriages with many other women, the polygamy style. One of his new spiritual wives he took was Rachel's sister. So he took his legal wife's sister as one of his spiritual wives and even had children with her.
All right. So what we're saying really is that this tree is just the trunk. Like
It
there are no
is.
branches in the
Yep.
branch.
So not only polygamy, but with your wife's sister. I mean, it wasn't his own
Fun.
sister, thank goodness. I mean, at least it wasn't blood to him. But anyway, I just found that interesting. So the rumors continued around them that there was multiple children being sexually abused. They wouldn't say, and I found this interesting, and things have changed, and I think that is because of Warren Jeffries that it's changed. They no longer, if this was to happen now, they wouldn't say they were just sexually abused. They would say they were sexually abused, but they were also emotionally abused because they were spiritually married. And they were told you are married in the eyes of God. In this case, they nowhere go back and say, even though he married this young child, they only talk about the sex abuse. They don't talk about all of the other forms of abuse.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, I kind of got a little pissed off today about that.
Sure.
Because we're more aware now. And I would think you would come back and say, because even with some newer articles about it, they still don't say, "Oh, yeah, that happened." And now, with all of our experience and what we've learned, there's this, and this. But they don't. But anyway, I'm regressing. So February 28th, 1993, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, also known as the ATF, in case anyone didn't know that, they attempted to execute a search warrant relating to the rumored sexual abuse charges and gun violations. Now, I could not, I tried really hard. I went into some of the court cases, went into things. I was like, what gun violations? This is Texas.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
I
true.
I couldn't find anything that was like, what was the violation? Because you can have as many guns as you want.
I Yeah.
So I couldn't find that. And we'll talk a little bit
Weren't
more about some of the charges later, but
yeah.
I put a pin in it for myself that when I'm back in training tomorrow, I'm gonna have to talk to a couple of the troopers and then one of the detectives say, okay, please explain this to me. Cause some of them are
Yeah.
probably a little older
I
than me.
thought yeah. I
But
thought they
how were there so many gun charges?
weren't they altering guns to make them automatic from
It
semi?
didn't, it didn't say. That's what
Yeah.
I found. It is such an innocuous that it just says gun of gun violation of gun. Are they sawing off and making them sawed off shotgun? Like you said, making it
It
automatic. Did they not have? I
it's
don't know. But in
it sounds
Texas, of all
like
places,
it sounds like verbiage in order to get a warrant. That's what that sounds like.
probably.
So,
Well, and then of course they thought that they would go in at 4:20 in the morning, thinking most people would be asleep. You wake them up, you startle them, you get in, you serve the search warrant.
yeah.
Well, as we all know, that is not what happened. Now,
No.
I'm going to save it till the end. I have wondered for years how it got so out of hand. I
Mm-hmm.
think I found the answer today,
Whoop whoop.
and I will share it at the end. And what is so interesting when I reveal it to you, how far I had to dig to find this tidbit
Uh-oh. I'm
was
excited.
interesting. So, anyway, they went in. So they tried for a couple of hours to get into the compound.
Hmm.
They didn't prepare very well because they started running out of bullets and ammunition.
Oh God.
Like,
Oh,
I was like,
Jesus.
really? I mean, did you think? I mean, that just tells you how confident we're going to go in. It's 4:20 in the morning. We're going to do this. We don't need all that. We got it, right?
We'll be back to Bob Evans by breakfast.
Yeah, they thought they were going to have their donuts. Yeah. So, needless to say, 4 ATF agents were killed in the attempted compound breach, and the FBI took over their
Yeah.
hostage
Yeah.
negotiation team. Do you
Yeah.
know how many days it continued?
I don't remember.
So I have a group text thing with people, and I put the message out there. I'm like, how long do you think it went on? I got 20 days. Somebody said 90 days, and somebody said too damn long. Like, okay, gotcha.
I like that person.
51 days. FBI hostage team was on site communicating with David and trying to reach a peaceful end. So Koresh kept putting them off. Yeah. We'll do that. I just need time. And they did release 19 children early in this part. So they were like, good faith,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
doing this. We now know he was just stalling for time.
Yeah.
But and I'm going to just be really nice here because I personally like Governor Ann Richards. I don't care what anybody else says. She, may not be perfect, but her in, how do you say it? Janet Reno.
Janet Reno.
They
Curse the
decided
internet. Rubble, rubble, rubble.
we're tired of this shit and we need to get it done. And one
It
of the
sounds like
reasons
Reno.
the 19 kids had been released and they were interviewed by the Texas Rangers and FBI.
Mhm.
They confirmed all of them had been physically and sexually abused. So they decided there's still kids in there. So on April 19th, they had enough of this shit and they said, you know what? We're going in. So they brought in armored combat vehicles and large 50 caliber weapons.
That's a great way to de-escalate.
Well, and here's what's
Yep.
interesting. They never fired the 50 caliber weapon.
So it was a show of force. It wasn't necessarily to be used.
Well,
Look
here's
how
what's
big my dick is.
interesting. And so they did their standard thing. They started putting in tear gas, right, to flush them out.
Right. Right.
I found in a couple of articles, but I could never find it where I felt 100% confident to say this. But the theory is they were able to put the tear gas canisters into that 50 caliber weapon and shoot it in. And they called it a tear gas grenade.
That's fascinating.
So I found it in 2 or 3 that said that, but I never enough from a reputable place to say
Right.
that's what's done. So what happened? They were told, you're not shooting at anybody, right? You're going to pump
Right.
gas in, you're going to get them out. Well, they started hearing gunshots and they're like, oh shit, they're firing at us. Then they realized, wait a minute, they're not firing at us. There's a lot of shooting going on. So they decided to pump more tear gas in. And that's where I read that they launched the tear gas grenades via the 50 caliber weapon. And I mean, I would just love to know, is that an attachment that you put on there? I mean, I'm just thinking. I mean, so I really have to find out about that too, because if so, that's pretty damn awesome.
It's a cool idea. That's for sure.
So,
Wow.
yeah. But so they were told not to fire, which they still say they didn't. But after putting in all this extra tear gas, all of a sudden 3 fires broke out in different areas, but at the same time. So the debate still is whether the Davidians, Branch Davidians, blah, 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 started it. Was it an accident? Did the FBI start it accidentally or deliberately? No, I mean, there's conflicting information.
Yeah.
So all in all, David Koresh and 80 of his followers, 22 which were children, died during this final FBI push. And there's a lot of opinions about David Koresh. He died from a gunshot wound. Some say his first-hand man killed him because he figured out he was a fraud. Some say it was because he was doing a compassionate kill. Others say he committed suicide. But then his right-hand man also had a gunshot wound. So however you look at it, they died, right?
Yeah.
Don't know who or what. So 20 of the followers who died on this day were shot, including 5 who were children and under the age of 14. Now, mind you, the FBI did not fire into this facility on this day.
Yeah.
And a 3-year-old was stabbed to death. Only one of those.
That is
the
very
others
up close and personal.
All died from falling debris, fire, things like that. But I just want to know, how fucked up do you got to be that you turn and you shoot 5 children? Just kill yourself and let the kids go.
Yeah, but these people are so stuck on the next, like, I've got nothing. Honestly, I've got nothing.
Just let your kids go. But
yeah.
So the government says that the Davidians were shooting each other as part of a suicide pact, or they were killing people who were trying to escape. What I found interesting about that, none of the people who were shot on any of the diagrams I looked at were outside of the building. So maybe they grabbed their backpack and said, hey, I'm leaving. And they shot him. But it's not like they were jumping out of windows and got shot.
Yeah.
So I just found that to be kind of interesting. But all in all, 4 ATF agents were killed. 16 were wounded during the initial raid. Now, 12 of the surviving Davidians were indicted by a jury with charges for aiding and abetting and murder of federal officers and unlawful possession and use of various firearms. We're back to there. Use of various firearms. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the gun laws were back then, but they haven't changed that much.
They've gotten looser.
Yeah. But an
Yeah.
additional 8 were convicted on firearm charges, 5 convicted on voluntary manslaughter, and 4 were acquitted of all charges. So my next question is, how did you decide who got charged with what out of those people? And how did 4 get nothing? I have my theory.
Mm.
They were females. They probably aren't the one who shot anybody. It was probably the men.
That's a safe bet.
But
yeah,
that's pure speculation on my part.
yeah.
Here's the batshit crazy thing. By
Mhm.
2007, all of them who were convicted were out of prison and living their lives.
Oh, fun.
2007.
That's good. That's great. I'm so glad.
So aiding and abetting and murder of federal officers, that's all you get?
I mean, Texas was just pissed they couldn't use the chair. I don't know. Just let them out.
Here's the other thing. There are several religious groups still in practice today that proudly claim to be descendants of the Branch Davidians from Waco.
Anything to get a couple extra followers.
So now, FBI did finally admit that the tear gas grenades they used have been known to cause fires, which means maybe the Davidians didn't start the fire, but all 3 fires started at the exact same time.
Right.
In 3 totally different areas.
They would have had to have 350 cows trained on the 3 different areas and
all at the same time. But they did finally admit and own that they could have possibly started it. But
yeah.
Another interesting thing, David Koresh is buried at Memorial Park Cemetery in Tyler in the Last Supper section.
Okay.
And he had a burial with his family members there. But his legal wife, Rachel, her brother, David, and her sister, Michelle, and the kids they had together were all killed in the fire. All of them were buried in a pauper's grave. What? His family buried him in a nice little private place in Tyler.
Yep.
They just let them go to the county-owned pauper's grave.
That's
where 20 others were buried. They basically dug 20 and put them there. But how do you not take your grandkids and bury them next to their dad? If you're going to do a funeral service for your son, shouldn't you have taken your grandkids and your daughter-in-law?
I guess it's easier to claim the cult leader than the illegitimate children.
But they were married. We're talking about his legal wife, Rachel. The one he legally was married to, and the legal kids, not all the bastards that he had, but
right.
And that's not my word, people. That I found articles that called them that. The children born out of wedlock. But I don't get why they just, we're going to claim him. Y'all keep the rest of them.
Money. I don't know. That's fascinating.
So now here's the little tidbit I found.
Yes.
So first off, the families of the ATF agents who were killed, they sued 2 media news organizations over the claims their reporting led to the death of them. A settlement was reached. And of course, they all said, well, it's not that we did anything wrong. It was a business decision. It was cheaper to pay than to go to court.
Right.
But American Medical Transport was also sued after an employee admitted to tipping off the Waco television station about the raid 2 hours before it happened.
Boo. Boo.
So, Boo. And with me and my training that I'm in right now, we start staging when those things happen. So they knew it was going to be a big deal. So they had a medical group. Hey, you need to be on standby. This could potentially go down. We're serving this warrant. That employee told the news. So the Davidians found out before they showed up. That's why they were all awake and armed and shot at
They're
them.
ready to go. Oh my God.
How in all of these years had I not heard that on the news?
That's why. Because it was the news. I don't know. That's wild. What a numbskull. That's
So
all I gotta
I
say.
found that by looking at lawsuits that were filed, because there was a lot of lawsuits filed against the government. You did this wrong, you did this, yada, yada, yada. In fact, in July 2000, a jury absolved the government saying it was a terrible tragedy.
Right.
You didn't know they were going to get tipped off.
Right.
And you get killed. Because if they would have gone in at 4:20 and everybody was sleeping, it would have probably been a little bit different outcome.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
But an employee told the news. So do you think that employee had to get some therapy?
Yeah. Yeah. You mean now still? Yes.
Because I mean, I can see, yeah, this is going down, just so y'all know. Probably didn't understand the cause and effect of what the consequences would be.
Yeah.
But the fact that they didn't tell how they were waiting for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So that's it. So I know there's a lot I left out, but I wanted to tell a little bit about how Howell became David Koresh. There is a lot more on this case. I did find at the end of all my research that there is a good series on the History Channel to watch about it, and that they have some interviews from some of law enforcement that was on scene that day.
Oh, that would be good. That would be good.
That's it. Waco, Waco.
Waco, Waco. I need to take a restroom break.
So, guys, we are going to give JT 34 seconds to. No, I'm kidding.
I'll be right back.
Hey, that was a good 34 seconds. You did great.
Well done, everybody.
So what you got for us?
Well, you usually think about some of the common cults, and I was trying to find something that was a little different, something that maybe somebody, not everybody heard of. And I can at least speak for myself that I have never heard of this cult. So when you mentioned that, here's the funny thing. The more different they are, the more they seem the same. And, we kind of expect that. And I'm going to be talking about the cult Love Has Won. And yeah.
I know have you heard of this about cult? This.
Yeah. So this is fun. It's a lot of fun.
Fun in a good way or fun in a crazy way?
It's crazy. Okay. It's insane. It's been through a few different phases with a bunch of different names, and I'm going to mention them right now. The first one's Love Has Won. Then it became the Galactic Federation of Light. Then it became the Church Ministry of Mother of All Creation. And it is currently known as 5D Full Disclosure. That's right. Currently.
5D like David? Dog?
5D like not 3D, 4D, but 5D, the fifth dimension.
Okay.
All right. So you can kind of get a feel for where we're going with this one just by hearing the names.
Mm-hmm.
Love Has Won is a combination of a lot of things. It's just kind of mixed up enough so that you can't pinpoint one thing about it. that would initially worry you. Not if you were like looking for, a sense of belonging or whatever, but we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. So in terms of the origins, the religious movement was led by Amy Carlson, and she was born November 30th, 75. She died April of 2021. She was referred to within the group as Mother God. So, yeah, I know. You don't usually see too many female-led cults, right?
I know. And Mother God.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I've heard of Mother Trucker, but never Mother God.
So the group had they had a few different numbers reported regarding the size of the cult, but they all kind of seemed to land within the realm of 12 and 24 full-time members that lived with her when she died. So
she could be
that was
part-time.
full-time members. Yeah, well, I think what they're considering is in-person full-time, but like virtually part-time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because this branches. So Amy grew up in Dallas, Texas. Woohoo!
Was she a blonde?
Texas. At a certain point, I just stopped paying attention to what she looked like. I'm gonna be honest with you. But she was pretty much a straight A student. Her mother and father divorced when she was a child. She first lived with her father, but then joined her mother and stepfather a few years later.
Sorry,
What?
I just poured wine instead of in the glass all over myself.
Party foul.
I am so sorry. That was very rude. Okay, I'm going to pour over here now.
So her family was middle class in Texas, and Carlson not only made good grades, but she also sang in the school choir. When she was in the early adult phase in her life, she kind of liked to talk about what people would deem outlandish concepts, including things like starships. So things are kind of going left. In 2000, she started getting into New Age philosophy. Quote, its highly eclectic and unsystematic structure makes a precise definition difficult. Although many scholars consider it a religious movement, its adherents typically see it as spiritual or as unifying mind, body, spirit, and rarely use the term New Age themselves. So, I think the purpose of using this is to misdirect and confuse people because the definition itself is confusing.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Right? According to her mom, at the point, when she was younger, the only problem was that her daughter always made poor choices when it came to men.
Don't we all?
I mean, I was going to say, I think we all have made poor choices when it comes to men, or women, or both, depends.
I'm on marriage number 3, so it took me 3 times to find a good one.
Once, twice, 3 times a double H.
Yep. Hey, at least I hit the jackpot. 3rd time was
there you go. So this thought in terms of men came to a head really in 2012. In regards to the New Age,
I just made the mistake of Googling her.
Yeah.
And see the headline.
Yeah.
It just has me in shock.
Did you jump the shark?
I did. I know nothing. And I'm like, how could I not know about this?
That's how I felt too. Especially having been 6+ years steeped in true crime, right?
Yeah, I'm like, what is wrong with me? Okay, keep going. Yeah. I'm not going to read. I need to know more.
So in regards to New Age philosophy, she used to post on forums where she met somebody called Amerith White Eagle. Now, which really, honestly, sounds like he put together a lot of clothing for young children. Now, listen, the reality is, I don't know what happened between the two of them, but White Eagle convinced her that she was divine.
So I bet it didn't take a lot of convincing.
Just a little bit of wine. That's fine.
You can convince me I'm divine after a couple.
Well, we know that's true. around that time, Carlson started saying she was experiencing something with paranormal phenomena. So after that, she apparently had a thing for this White Eagle feller. And yes, I said feller. You're welcome. I'm speaking the language of your people. I'm just kidding. I give you a hard time because I love you.
I know, it's okay.
But so in 2007, she decided to leave. It's so funny you said it earlier. She decided to leave her third husband. She left her third husband, her children, and her job as a manager at McDonald's.
Wait a minute. What was this guy's name that convinced her she was divine? Was his name Kyle Phillips? No, I'm sorry.
So she was 32 at the time. So she was on her third marriage at 32, which is totally fine. I don't judge. It's whatever. Timelines are timelines. People are different strokes for different folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're doing math right now.
I'm trying to figure out how old I was when I married handsome hubby. I was 34.
Ha. 2 years on it, right?
I just had to make sure I was.
I haven't fully insulted you, only about 25%.
Hey, hubby number 2, it was annulled. So
okay.
I could say I've only been married twice, but I did marry the second one 2 times.
You said annulled. I just want to tell you that in high school, I once was reading from the social studies book, and I pronounced annulled the wrong way. And I think you could.
Did you pronounce it?
And I never lived it down.
Anal?
Yes. King Henry wanted to be analled. So, which might have been true, but we'll just leave that at that. You're learning a whole bunch of stuff that's not in the script, y'all.
I am loving that. Okay.
Sour monkey. You're welcome. That's what you get with sour monkey.
Mine's
so
bread and butter.
And
so
she was 30.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Yeah. Are you the bread and I'm the butter, or am I the bread and you're the butter?
I think you're much smoother than I am. So, I'll be a product of wheat. It's fine.
Okay, I'll be the butter.
But I am definitely white bread. I think everybody knows this. So
White Eagle.
Yeah, right. No, not me. She was 32 at the time. And she just straight up left her family at Thanksgiving dinner, and she never came back.
She just got up in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner?
She just straight up was like, all right, it's time to go. Bye.
Why?
So I don't,
And how many kids did she leave?
3, I think. I think it's 3. 2 or 3.
3 husbands and 3 kids. Okay.
Yeah, something along those lines.
She was busy.
In a lot of ways, I think living with men is difficult anyways. So,
try being married to me and living with me.
So listen, she ran off with a Marith White Eagle. He called himself Father God and her Mother God. And Carlson started speaking of spaceships and ascension and all this other kind of stuff. White Eagle introduced Carlson to the I'm gonna call it the Creston area. It's kind of it looks like it's pronounced Crestone, but I think it's actually Creston. I'm probably overthinking it. But this is known Creston is known as a spiritual place that brings around people trying to find healing for body and soul. And apparently it didn't work great, because a couple years later she parted ways with him. And from then on, there were a series of other men who also became known as father gods to her mother god.
Easier than knowing their names.
It's true.
Hey, FG. I mean, much easier.
I don't know. I like Double H better. But different strokes. Whatever floats. So early on, the cult was known as the Galactic Federation of Light, and the mission was more kind of like a hippie commune that was focused on sex, drugs, and a good time. I'm okay. That's
I'm
cool.
like, I'm okay with that.
Whatever you want to do. Whatever I want to do.
If you're consenting and it's adults, have fun.
Right? Exactly. So around that time, her mom couldn't do anything about it. Carlson's mom. She said, quote, yeah, she was messed up, but she was healthy and knew what she was doing. So, I mean, what are you going to do? So in terms of the group doctrine or beliefs, we've kind of discussed the beginning. So let's take a break kind of from the timeline, talk about what they believe in. And it's fascinating because it's a huge, basically, amalgamation of different things. And their theology is what I would describe really as fluid. And it combines kind of new age spirituality, like I mentioned, with conspiracy theories, with pieces from mainstream Abrahamic religions. It gets all in there. And I
That's a
think I talk about
melting
this
pot.
briefly. Right. But there's also pieces kind of a little bit of Scientology too, or it's just the way that it's weird. It's all kinds of things. It was enough to confuse me. So I'm sure that anybody who's looking for a place of belonging, who thinks this might be for them, it's enough to confuse them in a way where they think they get it, but they don't know what's coming. Most of the folks in this cult believe that Carlson was a divine 19 billion year old being who birthed all of creation. If you think, and if you've been told that you have an ego,
I know. I'm like,
you know what I mean?
wow.
It gets
She's
better.
extra.
Carlson herself said she was reincarnated 534 times, to include living as Joan of Arc, Jesus, Marilyn Monroe, and Cleopatra.
Oh, how dare she touch Marilyn?
Well, she's not the only one. So she also believed. I just made a lot of enemies, I have a feeling.
I'm just like, but Joan of Arc, Cleopatra. Wow.
Jesus.
What about Mother
Jesus was in
Teresa?
there too. Oh, you know what? Whatever anybody like of those the
Well, she
followers
birthed
probably
everybody, so
cherished, whoever they cherish, she probably was like, oh yeah, it was them, just to bring them in further.
okay.
She also believed that she would lead 144,000 people into a mystical fifth dimension. And the group has also adopted pieces of QAnon conspiracy because, why not?
Why not?
This includes, of course, the idea that there is an underground pedophilic ring of people who run the world. Pizzagate, but wait, there's more. The world was run by a quote cabal determined to keep the planet in quote low vibration state. Y'all, I can't.
I'm like,
I
really?
can't. Yeah. And I will say this for a Patreon on the other Brew Crime, my other show, we're actually reading a academic book about QAnon.
Wait, you
And
read?
I know, isn't that amazing?
How do you have time?
I just treat them like hieroglyphics, and I just interpret and assume that I know.
Are
What
y'all
they
doing
mean.
a special coverage of that for their Patreon?
Yeah. Every now and again, most of the time we'll just read silly cult stuff. Like we actually read the Proud Boys onboarding documents, which is wild.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go join y'all's Patreon.
We have a lot of fun. We've hit a lot of cult/conspiracy theory stuff lately because, well, that just happens to be what's going on now.
It's exactly, and it's Mike.
Yeah, and it's Mike, right? Me too, but Mike too.
It's like your happy holidays.
It's true. Oh God, that's true. So the group believed Carlson was queen of the lost continent of Lemuria, which is part of the Hollow Earth theory. The group, so now we're pulling in Hollow Earth. They believe that Lemurians lived in Mount Shasta in California, which honestly, if it's named Shasta, it's probably second rate and from Kmart. So I don't know what to tell you.
Hey, I
That
liked
was not
lemon lime
scripted,
Shasta back in the day.
especially when it's combined mostly with alcohol. It's a great mixer.
No, there was a time back when I was doing chemo in Texas for
Oh,
whatever reason, Shasta they donated their products
oh,
to the cancer hospital so that you didn't have extra bills for those kind of things. So lemon
well,
lime
that's
Shasta
nice.
is something that I never thought of mixing it with alcohol because I relate it to health.
I retract all of my insults to
No,
Shasta.
it's okay.
But I will say this, Shasta is very popular on military bases, and I have had my fair share of Shasta
I mean,
throughout
it's
my
not your
life.
drink of choice, but it's not Pepsi.
No, but sometimes it's just really hard to find bourbon in a restaurant. So,
True. That's true.
um, so the group believed, I said that. Carlson also stated that Donald Trump was her father. I picked a really odd time. I picked an odd time to say that. Poor Terry is about to spit out her wine.
Oh my God.
Oh, this is great. So
She probably is not wrong.
right. So she stated that DT was her dad in a past life, and she had spoken to the spirit of deceased actor Robin Williams. She said that he was the archangel Zadkiel. Zadkiel? I don't know. I'm a Catholic, but I don't actually know things. I just, assume people are right when they tell me things. But yeah, so there's actually like video of her either talking to Robin Williams or explaining what he says to her, or which I just find insulting because Robin Williams is
I'm like,
a treasure,
that's just that's just wrong on so
right?
many levels.
Yeah. They also make references to Atlantis, Anunnaki, and the
So
reptilians because why not?
just a thought, Robin Williams, could it be that he played Mork on Mork and Mindy?
It's very
I
possible,
mean, I'm just thinking Galactic, Mork, Robin Williams.
right? I honestly, it's very
Just
possible.
made me think that could it be because he was Mork from Ork or something? Or
Mork for Mork, yeah. Oh my gosh, I love Mork.
so that's just my
Um,
thought, Robin Williams, because she doesn't seem
right?
like a person who's into comedy, but he was Mork
Yeah,
from
no,
Ork, so he was a space being like ET.
yes.
Okay.
Phone home. So the original Father God is gone as of 2014, right? White Eagle. And Carlson then gained her first follower, Miguel Lamboy, the same year. And then the group began to grow from there. Uh, they traveled between Colorado, Oregon, California, and Florida. A lot like Mormons. They just kind of traveled around until they found a spot. I'm surprised they didn't find a home in Florida. That just seems like a place that would accept them. But they ended up settling in Moffett, Colorado.
Her dad didn't give her space at Mar-a-Lago?
In 2004, well, maybe. So around mid 2018, that's basically when they settled, and that's when things seemed to get darker and a little bit more bizarre. Um, Jason Castillo came into the picture as the next father god. And in 2018, the group also changed their name to Love Has Won upon reaching Moffett. They rented a home in Casita Park, which was in a larger residential area known as Baca Grande. And this is, quote, considered sacred grounds to the Hopi and other Native American tribes. And the couple who developed it in the 1970s agreed to preserve space to bring together different religions to promote harmony and peace after the wife was visited by a prophet. So, oh no, we've run out of our first bottle of wine, y'all. And I say first, knowing that maybe there's a second coming.
This is
Um,
getting crazy because I'm like going, okay.
right, and as long as it's not the second coming of Carlson, we'll be fine. So, um, permission to live in that area is selective. There are retreats for Carmelites, Buddhists, and Hindus there. So someone from what is basically the owners association of the area said that they would have never never qualified to live there. So how did they get there?
Yeah.
Well, they got around it by getting someone to rent them a house. And the person who they had rent the house was a relative of the property owner, who also ended up getting involved in the cult. Ta-da.
Workaround.
Right? Connections. It's all about connections. So Lamboy, who was known as Archangel Michael, because why not? He was the first follower. Like I said, he bought a property there. So they were renting. They ended up buying a property there for $63,000. Lucky them. And they had a permanent place to stay. And then Lamboy also took Love Has Won to the level of a 501c3 status from the IRS. And that was in 2020. Yeah. That's where I started drawing the whole Scientology shit connections.
That's just no. Sorry, government. We need to get our shit together when it comes to stuff like this.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. There needs to be a review. They need to do a big old list review.
Yeah, you put somebody who goes there, go undercover, whatever,
right?
Send somebody, go check it out, see if it really is.
So
Okay,
this
sorry.
story is full of left turns. For a very brief period of time in 2020, the group decided to move to Kauai in Hawaii. Yep, see? Uh-huh. So they were met with a mass amount of backlash. Why? Could you guess why? Do you know why?
Is she gonna say that she's one of their they don't call them queens, they're
You are right on the money. Carlson said that she was the Hawaiian goddess Pele.
okay, yeah, they're thank you. Oh my god.
So there was a protest that went on from the locals for multiple days, and protesters lit driftwood fires and chanted Hawaiian prayers around the rented property. But in short, the mayor of Kauai ended up brokering their departure. Like, we got to get them out of here.
Good
And that was
job.
right. That was because of the community, but also because at the time, and it was 2020, they violated COVID protocols repeatedly all the time. And so they left from Kauai to Maui, and it almost seemed like they were going to stay in Maui, but then they finally were convinced to go back to Colorado.
Thank God I have friends that live in Maui. Don't go to Maui.
Right. And that all happened within a month and a half. All of it.
Oh, wow.
All those things. So in September 2020, the group was featured on Dr. Phil.
So just thought of something. It's that cheap to fly to Hawaii and to live there.
Nope.
Are there, did they have people, how did they pay for this? I know they became a 501c, but were they taken? I mean, if they only have 24 members, did all 24 of them fly there, or just her and her father god?
Well, if you think about this, the people who there's various types of people and levels of people who want belonging. But if you bring 24 people in, you say you're in this, you're living here, that means you have their money.
You have their money. That's right. And then you spend it
I'm
how
guessing
you see fit.
Most of them weren't millennials, so we weren't in constant debt. So I'm guessing I'd have had money. I don't know.
I'm not a millennial, and I'm constant debt. It doesn't get better.
That's true.
I don't even know what generation I am.
I feel like I'm a generation before millennial, but I'm not. I refuse to fully accept it. But there is a piece. There is an episode on Dr. Phil in September of 2020. You can look it up. If you look up Carlson Dr. Phil, it will come up. And as much as I really don't like Dr. Phil because of the fact that he's
where do we start?
Yeah, there's no way, because we can't start anywhere that his hairline doesn't, and his hairline doesn't start. So we're just not.
I met him before.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm.
How did that go for you?
He used to be on the Kid Craddock show in Dallas a whole lot, and met him at one of the golf tournament things that were going on, and he was there with Kid Craddock and Weird Al. So
what? No, stop. My brain is going to explode right now. Why was Weird Al with Dr. Phil?
Not Weird Al Yankovic. Weird Al is the name of a DJ that was on the Kid Craddock show.
I feel
Not Weird
much
Al
better.
Yankovic convention. No, it was not that
Jeez.
fabulous.
I was like, do
Uh,
not blow my brain up
no, Weird Al
entirely.
was trying to get me to cheat on my husband. So
That was
anyway,
the DJ then.
yeah, but no, Dr. Phil was at the height of
Yeah.
going up. It was when people thought he was doing a lot of good and before he
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
very
Yeah. Yeah.
Jerry Springer.
No, what you need to do is you need to watch your backswing.
Yeah.
So
Wish he
Carlson
was on
and two
Dr.
other
Phil.
members. So yeah. Anyway, so as much as I hate Dr. Phil, that episode is fascinating. That piece is fascinating. So
I
anybody who
will
wants
have
to
to
watch,
watch it.
yeah. Carlson and two other members were asked about the claims of abuse in the group, which they denied.
Wait, what abuse? I haven't heard of any
Not
abuse.
as far as I read, not sexual abuse. More along the lines of psychological
Oh,
slash physical. We will get into some of that. She's very
there's a whole
well
lot of
known.
mind effing going on. So
Yeah. There's a there's a lot of like yelling and screaming in videos that are posted. They're very well known for their live streams, very long ones.
great.
So, there were also recordings that were played in that showed the group making anti-Semitic and racist remarks too, which is very QAnon, to be honest with you. So in terms of the abuse, as mentioned, there were claims. A group called Rising Above Love Has Won, as well as a Facebook group called Love Has Won Exposed, watched a ton of their live stream videos from the group to prove it. And, quote, in one clip known within those circles as the Chicken Parmesan saga, Carlson berates a follower because he did not bring her chicken parmesan for dinner. She and Castillo, whose father God, scream, swear, threaten, and berate the man as he stands with his head down. And she says, "My vision was chicken parmesan." So I'm guessing, effing Adams turn around on me and give me meatballs. I didn't say meatballs. Now, I love meatballs, but I didn't say that. Chicken parmesan. So the following day, the man appeared on the live stream and explained his mistake. And he explains how and why that happened. And Castillo can actually be heard off camera during the apology screaming, "Liar, you just lied." So there was a lot of coercion and control in the group, right?
Are they doing
Um,
drugs still?
yeah, I know. So what I wanted to do was, in terms of coercion and control, I wanted to kind of give an example. So a man who remains unnamed for many reasons, primarily so he can continue recovering, left his wife, 2 children, and a 6-figure income in Mississippi to join the cult. And this was in May 2020. So
In
he
Mississippi,
just,
he was making 6 figures and
yeah,
he left that.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's a combination of, I think, so COVID happened.
Oh,
And
that's
I
right.
think
COVID.
so there was a lot more time on his hands, and we'll kind of briefly touch on that. So here it is. He discovered the cult because of the constant live streams and the videos that were put out daily. Those were the gateway. So he had extra time. He was kind of turned off to the whole COVID thing. He was, as far as I remember, uber kind of conservative-ish. And so he was, looking for all kinds of things. And so that's what he found. And he was basically into QAnon as well. And so that went along with it and his research into them. And, that all proved it. And so
Where was he
he had
January
actually.
6th? Sorry.
What?
Where was he on January 6th?
That's a great question.
Sorry.
He was, so he served in the military. He was a conservative Republican. That was part of the article. They lived in a $500,000 house, which nowadays could be a 2-bedroom depending on where you live.
A
When he
million in
discovered
California.
right? When he discovered Love Is One, it was around the same time, like I said, as COVID. He lost his job, so he did lose his job. He had more time to peruse the internet,
Okay.
which is really a bad thing if he's already ingesting the material, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now eventually he signed up for something that the cult called Ether shoot. basically he signed up for what are called surgery sessions, and that's because he wanted to remove the negative energy and any sickness from his body.
Okay.
Even 3 beers in, this doesn't sound like it makes sense.
I'm like,
So
that doesn't. Okay.
I know. So the cost was $88 a session. And in total, he ended up giving the cult around 15 grand. Quote,
He could have
his
gotten 3
behavior,
years with better help.
right? 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 That's not even a sponsor.
I know. I was like, that
But
is not a sponsored ad, but
if they want to be one, they're more than welcome to be. So his behavior, quote, his behavior at home became more unsettling. He slept less and he started following a schedule aligned with the 7 colors of the chakra. So on certain days, he only ate certain foods, and wore clothes that matched that day's color as ordered by the cult. The cult was so persuasive and coercive that they had their followers basically staring into the sun in order to get something they called light codes.
that would damage your
Mhm.
eyes.
So eventually he decided to leave, and he just one day just left to head to the airport mid-May 2020, and his wife followed him because they were headed somewhere, and all of a sudden he took a left or when they were supposed to take a right. And so anyways, the only thing he said was, "Mother God called me home." And a day later, he was on the live stream from Colorado. His wife was immediately concerned, obviously.
You think?
Now, her brother-in-law, while watching the videos, heard them say that his energy wasn't right, and then he was on, quote, the wrong side of the mountain, leading to more concern. And her husband ended up being found wandering in the wilderness alone, naked, dehydrated, with cactus needles in his feet. And, quote, he'd stared at the sun so much he'd burned his eyes terribly. So they had obviously sent him, right? They sent him out.
They tore. Oh,
Yeah. So he then signed himself out of the hospital. So they found him. He was sent to the hospital. They called the family. He then signed himself out of the hospital before anybody could get to him. And his wife and family asked for help online, and 2 people ended up offering, and they found him sitting under a bridge wearing his hospital attire.
why in God's name did they not do a 5150? If you find somebody bare ass naked out there,
I don't know.
you lock them down for 72 hours to make sure drugs are out of their system, that you can get something into their system. People can show up, or
Well, that's
get
the thing
police
is,
involved in case they were captive and they can't.
I don't think drugs were in his system.
That
I think he
hospital
was that
failed.
convinced. Yeah.
I know,
Oh,
but
for
you
sure.
don't just you just need to do your checks and balances.
Yeah. So, quote, he thought he had ascended the world into this 5D matrix and had done what Mother God and Father God wanted him to do. And we had to play that game with him, saying, like, yes, you did it, you're done, in order to get him to follow them, right? So again, we're not mentioning his name or anybody else's name because he's around and he's still recovering from that.
He's going to be recovering for a long time.
Oh, I don't know if it'll ever be over.
I was getting ready to say, I don't know. I think maybe you learn to cope and exist.
Right. So around that same time, Carlson was said to be in a bad way health-wise. She said that she was paralyzed from the waist down. She also said that she had cancer. April 2021, they were in an RV park in Mount Shasta, so they ended up going to Mount Shasta. They thought the Lemurians, like I said, lived there, but the RV park asked them to leave. April 10th, 2021 was the last time that Carlson was seen alive. So again, left turn. Get ready, it gets worse. So prior to April 10th, Carlson was looking pretty bad in the live streams that they did. And this is a lot of how they got to kind of reach their people in terms of live streams.
Live stream on like YouTube?
Yeah. Yeah, they are very well known for very long live streams. So Carlson's mother thought Carlson wanted medical care. So, and because of it, October 15th, 2020, two women discussed how she would never go to a doctor. Why? Because the doctor didn't understand what ascending was. Quote, there's been moments when mom has asked us to take her to a community hospital. Nope, there's no way. We know how hijacking works. So there are pieces of her that are still around that said, take me to a hospital, right? And they call that hijacking. They think that, right? I don't mean to mansplain that to anybody.
No, but I mean, my brain, I was like going, wait a minute, there's a piece of cognitive in there. There's a small piece
It's
that's
there,
like, go to,
right? So Carlson's brother doesn't believe that she was alive April 10th because she spoke to the landlord in California. She was alive April 10th. She spoke to the landlord in California, and the landlord said she appeared to be dying. 6 days later, on April 16th, there's a photo of Castillo, Father God, holding Carlson in his arms. She was either dead or almost dead in the photo, for sure. And the photo moved around and was shared in one of the group's private chat rooms, and it just forwarded out.
there is nothing private.
No, not at all. And her family started calling anyone that they could in the area. They called police, ambulance, fire, sheriffs, the DA in Mount Shasta, basically where she was last seen alive. And they wanted an answer, or they wanted someone to at least get her out of there. And everyone who arrived was turned away. And there wasn't anything that deemed a wellness check necessary, so didn't do one. So Lamboy, if you remember, was part of the cult. He was well aware of everything going on, so much so that when the group moved back to Moffett, he reported them to the Salida Police Department. Well, more specifically, he reported a body. Yeah. Again, left turn, right? At this point, we're turning. Yeah. So the police department on April 28th searched their house in Moffett and found Carlson's body. So Carlson, they were in Shasta. They moved back to Moffett. They found Carlson's body. And that means that she may have been dead as early as April 10th in California. And they found her body 18 days later in Colorado. Now, here's how, yeah. So her corpse was mummified. And the state of decay showed that she had been dead for several weeks. She was 45 when she died. Now, when they found her, her body was found in a sleeping bag wrapped with Christmas lights. Her face was covered in glitter, and her eyes were missing.
Okay, whoa. Back up to the glitter? She was covered in glitter?
Covered in glitter. Yep. Like a 6th grade science project. Covered in glitter.
I mean, I believe glitter goes on everything, but not a dead body.
Right? And I mean, wrapped with Christmas lights. So basically, authorities deemed that a makeshift shrine in terms of how they found her. I can't remember if I read that she was basically, they had sat her up in a chair.
No.
I think I remember that.
She sat up in a chair?
I think so. But yeah, her eyes were missing, all of this stuff. So
where? Wait a minute. Glitter sitting up in a chair. Where were her eyes?
I don't know. All I heard was her eye. All I read was her eyes were missing. I don't know. My eyes have seen the glory and the coming of the Lord. I have no idea where they're going with that. So why did she die, or rather, how did she die? There's a couple of things that have come up that are probably the reason. The first is alcohol abuse, which took a large part in the group, actually, I believe. The second was anorexia. The third was chronic. Oh, man. Here we go. Get ready. Chronic colloidal silver ingestion. Why ingest large amounts of this?
Why?
Can you guess?
No. I can't.
Well, her entire group was promoting it as a COVID-19 cure.
Oh my God. Why don't you just put bleach in your veins?
Or like just sun your taint. Even
I mean, I
even
was
the
thinking
FDA.
antifreeze the whole time. I'm sitting here going, she was sick on the live views. I'm thinking antifreeze. It was COVID.
So like
Oh,
they were promoting this not only on live streams but in the store that they had, and the FDA actually reached out to them and said, "You need to stop. You need to
thank
stop."
God.
Right?
Not that
So
it helped.
officially, the autopsy read that she died from, quote, global decline in the setting of alcohol abuse, anorexia, and chronic colloidal silver ingestion.
So basically, they don't know exactly what she died from,
Well,
but it was a
yeah, and
cocktail of just combination.
it's hard because honestly, by the time they got her, it was 20 something days later.
How was she mummified and not just decomposing? Did they give her something
I don't
to
know.
preserve her?
I have no idea.
That's what
I
I'm
didn't read
thinking,
anything.
because you start decomposing if they didn't give you something to mummify you, unless the
I just
colloidal stuff is also a preservative.
I don't know, and I don't know. It just depends on how they're defining mummified, really.
Well, I just think
Um,
mummified, their skin's not dripping off, is what I considered mummified.
right.
They have some
And I don't.
skin intact.
Yeah.
Wow,
Um.
I may not sleep
So,
tonight.
well, when the body was found, seven members of the group were charged with abuse of a corpse and child abuse, since there were two children on the property at the time. Um, because of course there were not. So it's not like child abuse in the typical sense
No,
that we
that's just
understand it. So they were there though. But May 5th, not long after, the deputy DA planned to upgrade the abuse to of the charges to a charge of tampering with a deceased human body. They were facing all kinds of different charges. Now, these charges around September 21st, 2021 were all dropped. I don't know why or how, but it wasn't really
affluenza.
explained why.
Who had money?
Yeah, well, maybe it could have had a lot to do with they just didn't want to deal with it during COVID. I'm not sure.
Well,
Um,
it was COVID. Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to tell because they actually had all the records sealed. It also could have something to do with they were a 501(c)(3). Maybe they actually, it's difficult with the whole religion aspect. Um, it's really hard to charge, quote, pseudo religion, like for instance, Scientology. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of stuff out there that's just really hard, especially when you hit that.
But they've charged priests or different people for doing exorcisms that were not
Yeah,
sanctioned by the church. So,
yeah,
but it
it's
was, I
true.
mean, COVID probably, I mean, I would just assume, has, I'm going to just hope that that has a lot to do with it.
Right, right. So, I mean, when this all received attention, the group ended up posting on Facebook. And this is so interesting because Scientology did the same thing. But they said that she had, quote, ascended. And, but like the Love Has Won website was taken offline.
Okay.
Which is interesting. So Lamboy says that he did it, but I don't have any assurance of that. But you'd
He also says
think
he's
that,
Father God. I mean,
right. You'd think that a dead body charges and everything else in this cult would be over. Um, it's not. Remember the Lamboy who reported the body and then he ended up taking the money and ran, basically, is what he did. It's thought that, you know, basically he was going to become the new leader, possibly along with somebody else,
is he going to be Mother God now?
right? So how do we know this? The people in videos are already talking about what Father God wishes. Um, Despite the fact that Castillo has a past criminal record and that he was charged in the case, it's still possible that he's helping lead this. And it's very possible that he had reported this to the police so that he could lead it. Love is One is basically rebranded. It's now called 5D Full Disclosure, which is an ironic name to do it being a cult. There's a new YouTube channel and Facebook group. So in an update, it looks like Jason Castillo splinted and formed a separate group called Joy Reigns with a small number of followers. And
Hey,
that makes me think, right?
they get kudos for coming up with original names, unlike the Branch Davidians of the Davidians of the blah, 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 blah.
um, so Lamboy is now the head of 5D Full Disclosure. That's an assumption. He might not be, but I'm pretty sure he is. Now, most of the videos are now broadcast from out of the country. They're not relying on in-country people. So they have reach in that realm, because when you do live feeds, it doesn't
So,
matter who
how do
gets
they
it.
know the live feeds are coming from out of the country and they're not just using spoof relays?
Like VPNs and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. I honestly, I wanted to kind of look into the whole YouTube channel thing, but I just didn't at the time. I did not have the cojones to do it. I
No,
wasn't interested.
because I work with international offshore stuff for call centers. I've hosted live things saying
Mhm.
that I'm from Dallas, but I was really in Manila
Right.
or
Right.
vice versa. So that I'm just like, how do we really know? Okay.
But through that, right, they still have the ability to recruit new members. Um, and the wife of the man who was found in the woods said, quote, "It's extremely disheartening to see the system is failing again. No one would help me and no one would help my husband. And a woman has died because she didn't have access to medical treatment, and they're all just allowed to go at it again."
So do they still have a 501(c) active?
That's a really good question, because they did change their name, and I don't know. I really don't know.
I'm going to
But
have
I
to
did
check into that.
want to say that I did a little research and I found some materials from 5D. They're not exactly hiding. I wanted to wait until the end because the story is bad, but these documents are just silly. And I just wanted to talk about the documents because one thing's for sure, I like to mix. I at least like to offset. So,
As you say, I could use a little lightheartedness because
well,
I'm
here we
just
go.
thinking if this is what we know, think of what we
Yeah,
don't know.
right. So a lot of this I pulled from actual direct documents that I downloaded off of their website.
Did you
Um,
join
no, I did not join. I
a
didn't have to
cult?
join.
Okay.
They are so confident in their own documents that they think that people are immediately going to be a part of it. So the first one's called the Ascension Roadmap. And in the About Us section, 5D Full Disclosure is a multidimensional light center. We are an organization dedicated to the service of humanity and have created a multidimensional platform to serve all of the needs of those awakening. Ooh. Um, Their vision is for all of humanity to wake up to truth and embody their higher selves, become God with God, and to build the new earth paradigm. And I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty sure I've heard some politicians talk like that.
I know. I
So
was like, God, this is like
I'm pretty,
Scientology and politics mixed.
I'm like semi sure MTG has said a lot of rhetoric like that. But their mission is to bring awareness and guidance to the collective on how to move through the ascension process and how to anchor in 5D. And the question always is, well, what are the requirements, right? So the first one's awakening. In order to awaken, one must first become aware of the darkness. Awareness transforms the lower into higher. We call this phase disclosure, which is funny because it's under the title Awakening. Um, Participation is the next one. That's a key aspect of the ascension. Every being is responsible for their own awakening and to be in service to humanity. Then there is embodiment, and that's the process of transformation, dissolving the ego and anchoring in the higher self. This is a physical, emotional, and mental and spiritual process. God, I'm exhausted just
I'm
talking about
like,
it.
wait a
I
minute.
really am. I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit. So, one last thing regarding their insights into awakening. And this is just one of the insights that I'm going to read verbatim, and then we're going to be done. And this is all a quote.
Is this going to make me join?
I sure as hell hope not.
Give it to me.
So all energy must be expressed either consciously or unconsciously. If your environment, experiences, or life does not reflect joy, abundance, growth, and love, then you are unconsciously creating your reality versus consciously. Oh, there's more. All pain, illness, or disease is based on energetic. Every ailment within the body has an energetic root cause and an emotional root chase. You can healing any ailment you heal the underlying energetic. Any thought that does not bring you joy or inspiration is based in ego or lower thought. What you resist persists. What you look at, you let go of. Accept, embrace, and allow. Triggers are treasure. Anything you do not like in another exists in you. That is, love has won. That literally made no sense. And it's not because I've been drinking. It literally made no sense.
The only thing out of all of that, and maybe it's because I've now drank almost a full bottle of wine, is
you are welcome.
Something about what you see in others is also in you.
Yes.
That is the only piece, because I feel that we all have our own internal stuff and we project that on others. That is the only freaking piece that I am like,
and it's
because I'm like,
honestly,
energy, I'm just going to say genetics, environment. I got cancer the first time when I was 20. Wasn't an alcoholic. I didn't do drugs, maybe ecstasy once or twice, but I didn't do all of those things. It wasn't energy. I loved people. Wham was my thing.
Hence the ecstasy.
It wasn't bad. Are you still? I know. But I'm like, it wasn't my thoughts, my energy.
Right.
I was, everything was good. People used to say, my God, could you stop being so sunny?
Right. Which is funny because, like, I heard that too in college. And it was like, I just want to be dark. Can I just be dark?
I don't like, can I just, I mean, even with, I want to find a dead body. It's not that the dark side, I don't want because of this happened and this happened in this family. No, the family gets closure. We are going to track down the SOB or SOG that did this. We're going to make them pay. It's the.
Yeah. And it's so funny that you said that, because literally that's the line. That's the only line that resonated with me. Right.
Did they kill her?
I honestly, I don't know, because they sealed the damn documents.
What state was she in for the autopsy?
So she was in Mount Shasta, California. She was found in Mata, Colorado.
Or Moffat.
So she was in Colorado for that whole thing.
But they did the autopsy in California?
No, they did it in Colorado.
Oh, crap.
But it's really hard because, again, they seal those documents.
It's sealed, but we can still do Freedom of Information Acts.
We could do an FOI.
I mean, just because
yeah.
I'm just thinking, I mean, I have known people with, cirrhosis of the liver disease, chronic alcoholics that done other things, but there's something more.
Oh, there's definitely more.
I don't know what the colloidal, and I'm going to just tell people, anytime we talk about that, I just always call it the clitoral, because men can't find the clitoral.
Well, here's the problem: is that
so why
she
are you
found
taking
it.
clitoral? But
she found it and she died. So maybe you don't want us to find it. I don't know.
But I just wonder, I mean, I don't know, there's just something. And the fact that they said mummified, if this was in 1980, the word mummified, I would know more what they meant. But
Right.
currently, mummified
I
means
have no
we
idea.
don't have the
It
decomp
can mean a
going
lot of
on. We
things.
don't have, you took whatever that preservative is you can put on your vegetables and fruit and put it in the refrigerator. They
Yeah.
rolled her body in that. There was something. How have I not heard of? Oh, this is going to send me down so many rabbit holes.
And you're welcome. Yeah, it's interesting, and like I said, I'd never heard of it before, and that every time, every chapter, every piece that I read about it, I was just like, how have I not heard of this before?
Well, I
And
also learned something else. I didn't know there was live feeds on YouTube.
oh God, yes. Oh yes. Yes.
I'm horrible. A funny offside joke about YouTube. I interviewed with Google several
Hmm.
years ago, and they give you on the application these things that they ask, and they ask something about YouTube. And I was like, yes, I know it's out there, but why are you asking? I didn't even know it was part of the Google family
Oh no.
because,
Well,
guys, I'm in my 50s.
that
I
means nothing.
But I mean, YouTube, I mean, I now have YouTube
Oh yeah.
TV. I pay a subscription. We put up our episodes on YouTube. I didn't know they did live feeds. Do you have to have a certain number of followers like you do on other
No,
platforms?
no. A lot of it deals with, so like up to a certain amount of subscribers, you can eventually like just offer merch on YouTube. You don't have to link it to YouTube. So there's different things, but you can definitely just start out. There's plenty of people that have just started. I've watched actually in the last week start out their live feeds on YouTube without anybody.
So,
So you can
guys,
definitely do it.
True Crime and Wine Time YouTube coming from JT.
Yeah, sure. I don't care. Why not?
I mean, I just
Let's
wonder
do it.
because of all the TikTok stuff going on, because I
Hmm.
follow a couple of influencers that
Yeah,
they're now like, oh, I now have a Facebook page. Didn't have one before.
yeah,
And they're moving because of the things going on with TikTok.
yeah.
Um, how am I just now hearing? Why isn't Google advertising this?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, they probably just don't want a super saturation. There's already saturation on YouTube,
Yeah.
but yeah. So
So
it's really interesting. It's a
this was
fascinating concept, but
a
they're
great
using it.
case, so you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So can I read you the headline that I popped up that I kept up because I'm still
Yes,
from Mother God to
yes,
mummified corpse
yep.
inside the fringe spiritual sect. Love has won.
That was one of my sources.
Rolling Stone, and I'm like,
Yeah, yep,
corpse. So
yeah.
I
Look
read
it
that.
up.
I
It's
went,
crazy.
I think of Mother God. I think of someone like Mother Teresa's age or someone mummified corpse.
Oh
Okay.
man. Well,
I
that's cults.
I love that you covered some I'd never heard of. Have you heard of Lou Castro, the original case I was going to cover?
No,
Angel's Landing.
nope.
Okay. So we might have to do,
Part two.
well, and I'm going to be honest, one of the reasons I was glad I flipped is I'm not sure I would call it a cult
Oh, good.
more
Okay.
than a massive manipulator.
Oh, well then, perfect. I can
So,
find something on that. That'll work.
well, I, as always, think it's fabulous for us to do this. But I love when we do cases that I haven't heard of. And
Yeah.
you always bring, I like it. So thank you.
Yeah.
Gracias. I don't know how else to say thank you. So Kitos.
Dunka.
Kitos.
That works.
So
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. Stay safe. I've had too much wine. I can't. Just watch out for people.
Yeah. Yeah, please. Good grief.
Just watch out for people.
We'll see you next time, everybody.
What was that you put up?
Rock on.
Okay. Is that rock on or is that rock? No,
Devil
that's I
horns.
love you. I thought that was
That's I
hook 'em
love you.
horns. I was like, why is he doing hook 'em horns?
Well, you're from Texas.
I'm like, why is he doing hook 'em
do that.
horns at me? Don't do that. It's like gick 'em.